Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On the onset, I regret the delayed start. I'm pleased to welcome you to the MasterCLaaS Lecture Series 6. MasterCLaaS is a flagship initiative of Land Ports Authority of India that brings together pioneering ideas, trends, and innovations. Through MasterCLaaS, we aim to foster a culture of continuous learning and knowledge within LPI, providing our staff with insights that enhance their expertise and help them stay ahead in rapidly changing world. Each session of MasterCLaaS opens a window of transformative thinking. Today, we focus on the topic of national significance, inland waterways in India, the status and prospects. As we build more integrated and efficient transport systems, inland waterways offer exciting possibilities for India's logistics sector. Today, our speaker, Mr. Jayant Singh, advisor at NITI Aayog, is a distinguished expert in this field. With years of experience in public policy and infrastructure development, including his role as Vice Chairman of the Inland Waterways Authority of India, Mr. Singh's insight into the opportunities and challenges of inland waterways are invaluable. Before we proceed, I would like to invite the Secretary LPI to formally welcome Mr. Singh with a sapling and a shawl.
But these formalities we could. Thank you, sir. Thank you for thanks.
Thank you, Mahiji, and thank you, sir, for allowing me the opportunity, and profuse apologies for delay. Niti, I don't know what we are doing. It's like running on the treadmill. There is no displacement as such, but you are perpetually out of breath. So I have to get back to work. But this was something I was looking forward to, having interacted with LPI on a couple of occasions before I joined NITI when I was in Inland Waterways. And I'll cut out the introductory part of it. And yeah. So why the salience? This is the most, the established axiom about waterways. Why we should go in for waterways? If we see it purely from logistics point of view, and I'm talking about the costing only here, because ultimately whatever public policy decision that we take, it is predicated primarily on a cost-benefit analysis. So waterways is this is a study which has had multiple iterations, the latest one being conducted by RITES, and this is what they came up with, that the cost of transportation is lowest for very, very obvious reason. But there are other benefits also that we need to understand. That is the reason why waterways is so very important, especially in our context. It is environment friendly, decongest road and rail. There's absolutely no two ways about it. It decongests roads especially, and I'll be talking about that more and more, because many a times an apprehension is established by logistics professionals also. I'm not talking about lay people alone, that when so much of capex has gone into railways, especially in a country like ours where we still have scarce resources, why on earth should be spending money in this sector? Because it will be competing with rail. Waterways will be competing with rail, especially if you see that specific cargo profile for which it is so amenable. So this is ores, ODCs, over-dimensional consignment, coal fly ash. Koi aur le jana nahi chahega ye. But I'll come to that why we do need to do it. This point number 3, if you see, is the most critical point. Why is waterways so good? Because no matter how efficient your rail is, high speed, dedicated freight corridors, whatever, this one obviates the need. There is no need for land acquisition, or very, very little need for land acquisition. And this is why waterways is a very good prospect for the future, especially in the eastern parts of the country, which are very densely populated and land is at a premium. And I will share one example, and I'll pepper my presentation with a lot of concrete examples. From a central government undertaking standpoint, Bengal is supposed to be a rather difficult state to deal with for very obvious political reasons. There's no two ways about it. We had to do a project, and I'll be talking about that project, starting from Sahibganj down to Haldia. This is National Waterway 1 on Bhagirathi Hooghly system, Farakka downward to Haldia. We had to acquire land at about chote parcels of land at about 46 locations. And all this happened last year, and I was working only for half a day every day. I had some health issues. I could not sit in office for the entire duration. But trust me, even in my half incapacitated state and very, very deficient workforce, we don't have too many people in IWA. We had no problem because the parcels were very, very small. So obviating the need for land acquisition as the years go by will be a very tricky prospect for all big ticket infrastructure works, especially in a federal country with a federal polity like ours, whenever you are contesting with a rival party at the state, right? Fourth point, can operate at a very low threshold of technology with last mile. The biggest challenge, you may leapfrog, and that is my last point here, that leapfrog is available. आप jump कर सकते हैं एकदम primitive technology से to the latest technology if you don't have the baggage of the past. But the beauty in inland waterways is even with very, very old technology as we have in today, if you go to Hooghly, those of you who go to Calcutta, you can see those old launches and all. Even they are very, very useful. And I have some pictures, and I'll, not the video, some pictures here which actually show you how even with low technology, we can get a lot of cost effectiveness. So if this is a good thing, and worldwide, if you see, this is an interesting slide. This is the percentage of total freight traffic carried by waterways. 7.5% US. China, of course, is phenomenal. It's about 14%. Vietnam is 18%. Germany and Netherlands. Netherlands, of course, has to be high because the entire country is submerged in water. Germany is very substantial. And India, unfortunately, is still stuck at 2%. And so we have a long way to go, but then we see it as an opportunity. And the advantage is that we have a proper authority, and it's only since about 2014 that we have really started looking at. So if I were to compare IWAI with LPAI, the next two slides will clarify that. So today we have about 111 waterways. These include rivers, small tributaries, even canals, and in some cases even lakes, which are navigable for water. So there are different classifications, but we normally assume that anything which is giving you a draft of more than 2 meters and above is good enough for carrying freight. So we had 24 operational waterways, out of which 24 operational national waterways where you have traffic going in, but there are 51 which have potential for carrying traffic. And if you look at the cargo, even I was very surprised. I had worked in multimodal transport. I was General Manager, Container Corporation of India. I've set up ICDs, dry ports everywhere. I have worked in shipping, was trustee at Kandla Port Trust and everything. But until I actually came here, I didn't realize कि इतना traffic अभी भी जा रहा है. ये तो हम लोग दिल्ली में बैठने की वजह से क्या होता है, we really cannot really visualize. We are really north of Tropic of Cancer, north of Vindhyas. We are not really maritime people, we don't think in those terms. But the quantum of traffic is phenomenal. It's still 133 million metric tons of cargo. And we had set upon, I say we because I still think very passionately about this, a target of modal share of about 5% of the total transport by 2030. So if you come up, so this is what governs in terms of the regulatory architecture, the entire scenario of waterway, the entire sector of inland waterways in this country. So we have a part as a attached office of Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterway, the Inland Waterway Authority of India. And this is the vision which I came up with, because rather, vision ke upar kai baar people confuse vision with targets, people confuse vision with planning. So vision is what we are aspiring for. And it should be very open-ended, it should be slightly abstract. So I had just one line vision, developing inland waterways as a credible, which means it's reliable, we can do it, and viable, because unless a mode of transport is viable, nobody is going to come. It cannot be entirely supply driven, it has to be demand driven. So it has to be a viable means of transport. And the aim is, of course, capacity augmentation of inland water transport sector and enhancing the total traffic volume. And this is the key function that Inland Waterways Authority of India is doing. Infrastructure development, regulation, and you won't believe it, until we had this Inland Vessels Act 2021, we were operating under the 1917 Inland Vessels Act, which was actually quite old, quite primitive. There was nothing about navigation in there was nothing about modern means of propulsion, nothing. We do a lot of technical studies, of course, advice and assistance. Advice, assistance, training and development is very important, because unlike other modes here, like railways is highly centralized, But waterways states have to play a very, very proactive role, and I'll show you the states that have actually done well in this sector. They've had a very, very important role of the states. So before we do that, yeah, this is the map actually I wanted to share. So this is why it explains, you know, ideally इसका office कायदे से होना चाहिए था कलकत्ता में या केरल में, or should have been somewhere in Andhra. So because we really can't appreciate this, we are far too north. So the joke was that the nearest waterways from Noida, where IWAI is housed, is at least 1,000 kilometers away in Varanasi. So it has certain advantages also, but a lot of disadvantages. But nonetheless, so this is the map, you know, if I were to put it in some sort of a schematic in just to give you a spatial sense of it all. I wanted to show you this is very important, and this is where the role of government will come in. You know, there'll always be a debate in big ticket infrastructure. What is the role of the government and how much of intervention should be done by the private sector? Because private sector, for obvious reason of efficiency, even, you know, PPP को हम think it's a magic wand. अंग्रेज हमसे कहीं ज़्यादा practical हैं. For those of us who have had some exposure to UK, in UK they don't call it public-private partnership. They call it private finance initiative. It's the private sector which is mobilizing finance with some public support and all that. So the cost of capital maybe is higher for the private sector, but they bring about efficiency. But in waterways, and this I'm talking from experience, it is not a sector which is entirely amenable to PPP, and I'll talk about that too. Now if you see the graph, I'm starting with 2014 because not so much for political reason, but for very obvious reasons that it is, although IWAI was set up in 1986, it is only from 2014 that we started looking at this sector very seriously, very importantly. And 14, 15, 16, 17, 4 years, a lot of groundwork was done. And the impact was visible from the year 2018, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21 and 21, 22. So you can see a very exponential increase. So overall, the CAGR is phenomenal. And every time, you know, I used to go to a seminar or, you know, any event or any lecture, and I used to say very proudly that inland waterway, the fastest growing mode of transport in India. So it has been growing very steadily. And if you see that pie chart towards the right, it shows the profile of the cargo. So as I said, it is very, very amenable to bulk. And here, I want to explain why it is not a competitor, but it's complementing rail. You see the problem with carrying bulk transport in rail, and since this is the audience primarily from, I mean entirely from Land Port Authority, problem with rail is that other than the, of course the route saturation and blah blah blah, is that to book any consignment by rail, you have to give a full train load. Now train load in an open box wagon, which is the bread and butter of Indian Railways, you need a cargo of minimum 3,000 tons. Isko box and rake jo bolte hain, it has to be a 3,000 ton load. Now the kind of cargo we are carrying, although our biggest cargo vessels have a carrying capacity of up to 2,000 tons, but the real cargo is being carried by very, very small barges. Small barges and bulkheads, 250 se leke 500, 600, 700 tons. So that kind of cargo should ideally be going by rail, but rail is not able to carry. If not rail, it should be going through containers. Container is not able to carry because it is a very, very low cost, high volume kind of cargo. So not very amenable to containers also. So there, inland waterways really steps in. So especially if you look at fly ash is here somewhere. It's only 7%, but it's very critical. Fly ash traffic to Bangladesh. It's in terms of, if I see the commodity profile, number one cargo traveling from, going from India to Bangladesh, because it cannot be carried by any other mode. Other than from the power plants up to the loading point, uske beyond road se agar le jate hain, it becomes entirely unviable. So it has to go. This operation, friend, in fact, I am in the process of writing a case study, is perhaps, if you see in terms of efficiency, in terms of tonnage, it's the cheapest mode of transport anywhere in the world, because the cargo is carried in a vessel which is operated by a crew of 3. The trucks that load, the bulkers that they are called, उसमें एक ड्राइवर, एक खलासी और एक पंप ऑपरेटर, उसमें भी 3 आते हैं. about 10-15 बल्कर मिला के एक वेसल का पूरा कार्गो वो करते हैं, लोड करते हैं, और वेसल में केवल 3 प्राणी होते हैं बस. और अनस्किल्ड लेबर है, उनकी ट्रेनिंग उस पर भी खर्चा नहीं है. आई एम श्योर उनके जो इंश्योरेंस पेपर्स हैं वो भी फर्जी हैं. So there simply cannot be a cheaper mode of transport than this. So this is one reason why, because we understood the practicalities and this traffic is growing. I'll just briefly talk about some interventions that have been made in this sector. And this is perhaps the signature project. I was the project director of this project. It was a $65 million project only, 369 crores. In UP, Bihar, Jharkhand and Bengal. So there were a whole lot of issues from law and order to land acquisition to everything, except until we came to the Earth Ganga. I'll be talking about that. And it is ambitious because since World War II, no intervention of this kind has been taken ab initio. Chinese waterways, if you look at Yangtze River or Huanghe, the Yellow River as they call it, or Rhine or Danube or Scheldt in Europe, यहाँ पे जो आउटले जो होता है इससे कहीं ज़्यादा का होता होगा, लेकिन एकदम scratch से शुरू करना a modern project, it was very, very ambitious. And I did ask in fact, when I took over, Mr. Gadkari he was the shipping minister until then. Of course, then Mr. Mansukh Bhai Mandviya was made the state minister in independent charge. But this was conceptualized during Mr. Gadkari's tenure, and I went up to him and asked him कि सर आपने बनारस से क्यों किया, ट्रैफिक तो कुछ है नहीं वहाँ, या पटना से ही ऑनवर्ड कर देते, या कायदे से तो केवल साहिबगंज से होना चाहिए था. Then he was very clear. He said many decisions that you take are, of course, one are strategic, one are long term. एक visibility you have to establish as a mode. इसकी credibility कि हम कर सकते हैं. तो अगर आप कहते हैं हम आगे कहीं बाढ़ या साहिबगंज से कर रहे हैं, it wouldn't have grabbed eyeball, nobody would have come ahead to fund it. The moment it became Varanasi, for very obvious reasons, everybody jumped in, and that is the reason. So it's a very, very ambitious project, but I am very happy to say that other than 2-3 stretches where we have to do some fairway maintenance, the dredging part of it, the entire thing we could complete on time. It was an amazing intervention. I mean, it's only problem is we put the cart before the horse. Before we could get the fairway ready, we got the terminals ready. This is again a lesson I'll talk about it when I analyze. Another area of intervention is Brahmaputra rivers from Sadia on Arunachal Assam border till Dhubri, 890, almost 900 kilometer long stretch. And I treated it very, very seriously for 2 reasons. One was, of course, because our then shipping minister, Mr. Sonowal, is the ex-chief minister. But I see it more strategically, and this is perhaps something which LPAI would understand even better. See, this is a lifeline not only for cargo. I treat it as an indestructible, unsinkable mode of transport to your Arunachal border. There are only 7 bridges right now on Brahmaputra between Dhubri and Sadia. And I believe there are some people here with some background in armed forces or in security. How long do you think realistically it would take with the kind of technology PLA has? How long we'll be able to hold on to these 7 bridges? 72 hours max, trust me. With all your S-400s and everything, I don't even think we have S-400s there in the eastern sector. So what will be? One way, of course, is to set up all your supply depots north of Brahmaputra, which is, of course, I'm sure would have been done, will be done. But how do you ensure that the movement of goods and personnel also, if need be, is carried on if you are able to maintain this 897 kilometer long stretch? Number one. And number two, if you have the entire stretch navigable, you minimize your dependence on the chicken neck corridor. Very, very important. You are able to connect it. And when I talk about the regional waterway grid, this is what it is. So and of course, Kerala, we are doing a lot of work, a lot of cargo, especially hazardous cargo, because environmental regulations are very strict. It's very densely populated. A lot is happening in Kerala. So I won't bore you. I'm leaving this presentation, and that's why I sent it to Maheshji Pehle. It will be here only. But if you see, it's along the entire length of the state. And the beauty of this system are twofold. It's a network of canals and network of backwaters. So it's not like a flowing river. So dredging requirements are relatively less. And number two, it's very, very well integrated with the overall economic and social landscape there. So those of you who've been to Cochin, have been to Cochin Metro. The Cochin Metro is very well integrated with the Indian waterway. So it's actually truly a multimodal transport. आप बस और कोई और साधन लेके आप मेट्रो तक आइए, मेट्रो से you take a ticket, you come to the waterway thing, They're very nice state-of-the-art boats that are there. They actually they look quite have actually वो काफ़ी लगता ही नहीं कि मतलब for want of a better word कि हम यहाँ चल रहे हैं इस देश में चल रहे हैं बहुत ही अच्छा है वो अंदर से. It was in fact I was very unfortunately by the time I had a ride it was time for me to leave IWAI. But you must see, I think it's a tourist attraction in itself, and it's all indigenous. Lot of development happening in Andhra and Tamil Nadu because see the east coast and Andhra and Odisha are very very critical. In fact, we should have had Odisha here. Andhra and it's critical because again these two rivers we haven't really, it's the potential is not so much along the river but across the river. Now I have been involved in the visioning workshop, visioning exercise for Andhra Pradesh with the earlier government and with the current government also. And Andhra government is very keen to develop Andhra as a major thing, a major maritime center. And although it has a lot of natural harbors, but the hinterland connectivity, despite a good railway network, there's a lot that can be done. And Waterways is coming in again as a very, very cheap alternative, right? So next is of course Maharashtra Waterways. Maharashtra is different. Maharashtra is not unlike your, it's not like your Genji, Ganga or Brahmaputra or other rivers there. Yahan pe these are small creeks on the Western Ghats, not more than 40, 50, 60 kilometers inside. But the significance here is that is the eco-friendly nature of this transport. You see, Western Ghats are very ecologically very fragile. I mean, abhi to we are just riding roughshod over all environment regulation. But honestly, I mean, if you read what is happening and the kind of the climate change and the extreme weather events that are taking place, we really have to think and rethink whether we actually need expressways across the length and breadth. So these creeks are a good way to actually access the hinterland. So JSW is doing a lot of work and Maharashtra Maritime Board is doing a lot of work here. So this is something which was work in progress when I left a year back. A lot of headway has been made. And these creeks, again the advantage is that सारे के सारे आप देखेंगे छोटे छोटे पोर्ट्स बन रहे हैं यहाँ पे, तो पोर्ट की जो अंदर hinterland connectivity है really improves. And of course Odisha is like the best project, and Odisha I want to talk about it because you see, there are two major ports in Odisha. But the importance here of Odisha is that it's a rich state. But the problem is again connectivity. Adani has built a very good state-of-the-art port at Dhamra in the north. And further south you have the Paradip port. Paradip port ke liye average waiting time for a truck or a trailer is anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. And if you drive there, so the line goes, पता नहीं कितने दूर तक लंबी जाती है. They have built one line, they are building another line. Dhamra has a dedicated railway line to the port. They are building another line, but वो काफ़ी नहीं होगा. Now, a third line or the fourth line, because railway again is a quote unquote a very, for want of a better word, civil engineer and construction, people-led organization. वो कहते हैं हाँ जी साहब कर लो, land acquire हो जाएगी, but all the land that is required is forest land. तो देर सवेर उसमें दिक्कत आती है. So what is the way out? You use National Waterway 3, which is basically Ramadi River from Talche all the way to Dhamra, and National Waterway 64 on Mahanadi. And compared to the kind of money that is pouring in railways and roadways, it's very little. It's less than 6,000 crores, and we'll be able to do it. So the DPR is ready. So I just hope it's only a question of signing, forming an SPV and working. Lot of work happening in MP. This is the thing where Land Port Authority of India would be very interested. This is one initiative. I was heading that, sir, leading this in Ministry of Shipping also. So the idea here is to connect Ganga River system with Brahmaputra. So आप पटना से आप डाउनस्ट्रीम आइए साहिबगंज फरक्का होते हुए अभी क्या होता है कोई भी अभी भी जहाज़ जा रहे हैं. If you remember Ganga Vilas, that 4,400 kilometer long that cruise tourism voyage that was undertaken, it sailed all the way from Varanasi, Patna, Sahibganj, Farakka hoke Calcutta, Haldia, then entered Bangladesh via that Ganga Sagar and all that Mongla, Dhaka, Waka hoke upar gayi. So in this what we have envisaged, sir, that there is a Farakka ke just about 60-70 kilometers south of Farakka, we will have another navigation lock which will connect Bhagirathi with Padma on the east. Now Padma is the boundary. Padma is what Ganga becomes Padma once it enters Farakka ke baad it enters Bangladesh. We are able to connect that. So you save about 700 kilometers of sailing in about 1 week. 1 week of sailing for any cargo that is transiting from UP, Bihar, Bengal to India's northeast. So when I talk about reducing our strategic dependence on chicken neck, this is what we have in mind. So a lot of initiatives are happening, and the beauty about this regional waterway grid is, I don't know what will happen with this new government, that World Bank has been very supportive of our project, and World Bank has a big footprint inside Bangladesh. And Bangladesh ka 30% of their internal cargo moves in waterways. So we have a decent working understanding with Bangladesh Inland Water Transport Authority for movement of cargo from India to India via Bangladesh. There is a protocol in inland of PIWTT, it is called Protocol on Inland Water Trade and Transit. So under that, we'll be able to move our cargo through this. And the beauty here is none of these locations are actually single mode locations. This is where LPAI also comes in. It has to be, see, all transport is multimodal. I mean, there's very, very little which is a closed same mode, door to door, unless you're traveling by road on long distances, which is not very efficient. So all waterway jetties have a road terminal. You have to have a proper space for parking your trailers and trucks. You have to give space to the drivers. You have to have space for documentation, custom inspection, and blah blah blah, everything. So all these nodes that are there, PP jahan likha hai, they are all amenable to both road and to rail. So the idea was to develop a regional transport grid riding on waterways that would connect India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, that BBIN thing. And to make it even more expansive and forward looking, the idea was to incorporate Chittagong and Sitwe in Myanmar. And even we are even looking at connecting Thailand, because Thailand also has a very robust inland waterway system. Of course, it is predicated on a lot of other political, diplomatic and other interventions. But the advantage is that you are able to connect through coastal shipping and inland waterways and road this entire region. So it's that that BIMSTEC jo pehle tha, it is basically riding on that philosophy. This is called Earth Ganga. This is nothing but a series of about, I think I had 58 or 60 odd jetties between Varanasi and Haldia. Now the idea was this, that, and it came from more like a political advice. A minister that way, he's quite a, for want of a better word, a chilled out guy, and he's a visionary in a sense of the word, Mr. Sonowal. His constituency is Majuli, which is an island inside Brahmaputra, so he has seen rivers from up close. He said, why should river typically be a Brahmaputra like river? हम उसको negatively क्यों देखें कि वो हमेशा floods ही आते हैं, ये करते हैं? Why don't we see river as an artery, as a source of connectivity for the region? So it started like this, that, I mean, if those of you who have lived who are from Eastern UP, Bihar or Jharkhand, we would have seen, I'm from Eastern UP, we have seen, Ganga, especially during monsoons. एकदम चौड़े चौड़े पार्ट है, कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है. अच्छा, हम लोग पुल पे पुल बनाए जा रहे हैं, लेकिन एवरेज डिस्टेंस बिटवीन टू ब्रिजेस इज व्हाट 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers. Now, if just imagine if you are living by the riverside and you have to go across, what do? You drive about 20, 30 kilometers and then backwards climb onto the bridge, then you cross the river on that bridge and you come back again. So instead of, why don't we change the whole equation and use river as a highway? Right? So those of you who have been to, say, Holland, and who have seen Ro-Ro operations, even in Goa, for example, why can't we have these Ro-Ro terminals and small jetties where you can, even in your Tata 407 या Chota Hathi or two-wheelers or small cars, आप jetty पे जाइए, jetty से सीधा Ro-Ro vessel पे चढ़िए, just go across. These jetties, we thought we'll have a whole lot of these jetties dotting the entire stretch from Varanasi to Haldia, and we call them community jetties. But problem kya hai, inland waterways we don't have the capacity to man these. अरे बना तो दिया आपने, बनवा दिया आपने, ठेकेदारों को पकड़ के डिज़ाइन दे दिया, सब कर दिया, but install भी कर दिया. Who will maintain it? Who will run it? Will there be commercially viable? हजार सवाल आए. So it was just an iterative thing, and I am a railway traffic service officer. I have never dealt with panchayats. I have never dealt with, trust me, even MLAs in my life. So what did we do for stakeholder consultation? We just went to individual district, called everybody, from the Pradhan to Zilla Pramukh, regardless of what ideological affiliation they had, political affiliation, and called them and told them कि साहब ये देखिए, अब जो भी इसको take over कर सकता है कर ले. Luckily, good thing with Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand and UP was this, that these places, they were all governed by the British. So the district administration is very solid. They could actually steer it. And we said, okay, we will give it to, depending on the location. For example, in Kathi, in Varanasi district, sir, वो क्या वो कौन है सर वो जो अभी कौन पांडे जी थे ना सर, मिस्टर पांडे, he was the cabinet minister also. So वो पूरा मठ shrine उन्हीं के उसका है. So we gave it to the temple trust. So we were very agnostic. भाई जो भी वहाँ पे dominant हुआ है, जहाँ पे कहीं कृषि उपज मंडी है तो कृषि उपज मंडी को दे दिया, पंचायत है पंचायत को दे दिया, district administration है directly उनको, we just built it. We designed the jetty, and these jetties are so good, and I have a few pictures also. Yeah, this is what it looks like. They are pretty well designed and they are very robust. And the problem with our Indian rivers is, especially Ganga, they are shallow and wide. A good navigable river has to be narrow and deep. So we are just the opposite. So क्या करें, क्या दिक्कत क्या है? अभी बरसात है तो पहाड़ जो हैं 5-6 किलोमीटर चौड़े हैं और गर्मी में वही shrink करके the river is reduced to less than a kilometer. So what do you do if you install a jetty there and after once the rain subsides, the water subsides, you are stuck nowhere. So these jetties that we design are actually made of HDPE. They are just about this thick. So the conventional design, we double that conventional design. To make them a little more robust and sturdy, we encase them in very good quality rust-proof steel, right? And they are so light that with the help of a tractor, you can pull it आगे पीछे दायां बायां, आपको जहां डालना है आप ले जा सकते हैं. आप अच्छी सी क्रेन ले आए तो उसको उठा के ट्रैक्टर ट्रॉली पे भी डिसमेंटल करके उसको लोड कर सकते हैं. And so wherever the river, the concerned authority feel that we need it, it can be just dismantled and put back together in a matter of few hours and days, depending on how accessible that location is. So we have even these vessels docking at these jetties. So if you recall in last year when a lot of events were happening in Varanasi, Honorable PM was addressing, doing the Ganga Aarti and everything on that. The vessel is actually this vessel over there on the bottom left, and they actually typically dock in these community jetties only. And the beauty of this project is it was financed entirely from the saving of the bigger project. तो हमारे बैंकर काफ़ी दुखी हो गए थे, यार इन्होंने तो और भी सस्ते में निपटा दिया, हम कर्जा ही नहीं दे पाए. 7,000 करोड़ के प्रोजेक्ट को भी got it to 5,600, उसमें भी 700 crore की further savings से we did the entire thing. It was a big challenge, but because of community participation, we could do it. So, and right now, the last of the jetties are being built and commissioned in Bengal. So this is what, so I really wanted to share because it is one of those happy episodes in the otherwise not a very illustrious journey of IWAI. And this, of course, this is again a great area of potential. And as far as the river cruise, and river cruise here, private sector can come in. We are having a lot of river cruises. Anyone from Assam here? No. So Assam does a lot of these river cruise and their boats are really modern. In fact, the Ganga Vilas cruise, they do a lot of sailing on Brahmaputra. And there are a lot of other cruise, voyages running between Kolkata and Dhaka. And since I think end of 22 or early 2023, we are having these cruise voyages in Bhitarkarnika sanctuary in Odisha also. So they are doing very well. And this I call a very low hanging fruit because these vessels do not cost much. They can be built and fabricated here. And typically why tourists like Palace on Wheels and all that, they go jam packed is this. कि आज की तारीख में आपका 5-star में एक रूम का खर्चा वैसे ही 10-15 हज़ार 15,000 20,000 पर नाइट से कम नहीं है. अगर उसमें आपको अगर खाना भी मिल जाए, साइट सीइंग भी हो जाए, नदी का भी चाम मिल जाए, so it's like a win-win situation. So it's doing very well. And now, of course, there's a national level task force, a lot of money is coming in, and PM actually has driven this. When I mentioned in my first slide, I was talking about leapfrogging in technology. So this is a couple of good examples here, the electric hybrid catamaran vessels and the hydrogen fuel cell. And the beauty of both these vessels which you see here is that they are designed and manufactured in India. Indigenous design manufactured by Cochin Harbour. Kochi Port Trust. They have done that. The guys who are building our aircraft carriers also. So a lot of leapfrogging has happened. And these are the technical, I won't bore with all this. This is the potential here. This is some interventions, because as our, you have more and more digitization, a lot of e-commerce coming in for last mile connectivity. It's only a question of time before customers started coming to us. So we had Amazon, ITC, Jindal happened while I was there, but now Amazon and ITC have also coming, and a lot of over-dimensional cargo movement. So as you start looking eastward, you have more and more over-dimensional consignments which can't go by road or rail. So perforce you have to move them by river. So this is what is happening. And this is the route I was talking about, the regional waterway grid. So this is a more clear map. So this shows you better how we'll be able to bypass our chicken neck. And so this can actually complement the Land Port Authority. And unlike, I've attended a lot of coordination meeting with Bangladesh Railways for rail transit. It doesn't work. वो मीटिंग ही होती रहती है और ईटिंग हो जाती है, बाद में उसके कायदे से काम हो नहीं पाता. But waterways is something which is happening very, very seamlessly. So we could really build on that. And this is the larger landscape I was talking about. So I will conclude with this. अब तक जो मैंने आपको बताया was fact. Now actually I want to do some analysis here. So what are the strengths? It's ecologically sound. The second part, the no competing claims on resource is very important. Here we are using water as a resource, but waterways does not consume water. Unlike irrigation, unlike agriculture, industry, or for drinking, you consume water, it's gone. This does not compete. So in fact, it's in the vested interest of the sector that water, minimum water level remains. There's a people's connect, a civilizational connect with water, which gives it a political appeal. So all my presentations before the parliamentary committee, हम कितना भी रद्दी काम करते थे, हमें डांट बहुत कम पड़ती थी, क्योंकि ये कहीं ना कहीं एक civilizational connect नदी का सबसे है, right? All civilizations have emerged along river valleys, like ours, highly amenable to multimodality, low marginal cost, less interstate friction, land-less contentions. What is the weakness? Now this is the weakness. Very, very nascent ecosystem. I don't have enough engineers. I don't have trained people. Now, I worked there for almost 3 years. I had to leave. Luckily, my successor was the joint secretary in the ministry, but he's not really a field guy. So everybody struggles here. We don't have enough vessels. We don't have enough navigable routes. We don't have enough knowledge. Gestation is long. Inadequate state capacity. So even the states like Assam, Odisha, Bengal, Maharashtra, Andhra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, 8 states, and even to some extent Tamil Nadu and UP. 10 states have state bodies and all doing it, but they also lack capacity. क्योंकि या तो कोई जहाज़ चलाने वाला आपको मर्चेंट मेरीन से मिलेगा, कोई टेक्निकल साइड से या मार्केटिंग साइड से, आपको सिविल इंजीनियर मिलेंगे हु कैन बिल्ड स्ट्रक्चर्स, बट कंप्लीट अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ वाटर एज अ सेक्टर नहीं है. ड्रेजिंग इंजीनियर्स नहीं मिल पाते थे मेरे को साइट पे. सो दिस इज अ प्रॉब्लम. सो वन ऑफ द चार्जेस दैट आई हैड वाज आल्सो द नेशनल इनलैंड नेविगेशन इंस्टीट्यूट व्हिच इज सेट अप इन पटना. सो वी आर ओपनिंग लॉट ऑफ दी सैटेलाइट ब्रांचेस. सो वी हैव ओपन 2, one in Kolkata, one in Assam. We need to do more, a lot more. State capacity is less. Lack of institutional capacity, that is also a problem. Lack of private sector participation and market reluctance. Because the moment वो लोन लेने जाता है कोई भी, मान लीजिए मेरे पास है 10 करोड़ रुपए, मेरे लिए it's much better to buy 10 trailers and run them than buy one inland vessel, inland waterway vessel. Because that bankability doesn't come in. Collateral में मैं जहाज़ दूंगा, जहाज़ लेके कोई बैंक क्या करेगा, किसको बेचेगा? So this is a big problem. So it's a very chicken and egg situation. So that's the biggest weakness. So lack of institutional capacity is also a problem. Opportunities are tremendous. Strategic, I said, it's very important. It will enhance urban mobility. Now just imagine, to Delhi, but today we have 5 or 6 bridges across Yamuna. I grew up in Delhi, but trust me, until this ITO bridge was constructed and commissioned, the Noida wala bridge, jo Akshardham wala hai. For years we had only 2 bridges, the West Yamuna bridge, Shahadra wala, and the ITO wala bridge, and that pontoon bridge. Now today we have 6, only 6 proper bridges. But imagine if we had hosts of these RoRo facilities, RoRo terminals, whereby you could just drive every 2 minutes, you had a RoRo vessel. Look at the kind of transformation it can bring about. Of course, we don't think strategically, but look at, so urban mobility. And all our urban centers, if you see, are on a riverfront, or they have creeks or something. They have a water body nearby. So we should leverage water bodies and inland water transport as a bridge, an indestructible bridge. Lot of scope for capex. There is a lot of push for infrastructure. So capex, O&M, this is a totally greenfield sector. Coastal and light rage. Now, we are all logistic professionals here. What is the biggest problem with Indian ports? The very high turnaround time for the vessel. हमारे यहाँ loading unloading के time बहुत ज़्यादा है, इसीलिए हमारी berthing के लिए हमेशा queue रहती है. So there is something called light rage, whereby without actually berthing on the jetty, आप उसको जहाँ पे anchorage में ही आप ship को खाली कर दीजिए, छोटे, you can transfer your cargo directly to smaller vessels and carry them through inland waterway. This is actually what is happening in Haldia. Haldia में lot of cargo जो inland जा रहा है is being moved through light rage, does not dock. So it saves time, it saves money. It's in sync with the Act East policy of the government. So what are threats? Of course, climate change is there because it impacts water availability. Abhi to we are also having deluge of water. But Mahanadi, even eastern sector में river, sometimes Ganga में flow बहुत कम हो जाता है. It is a risk. Lot of intermodal competition. And see, for me, a big problem is this also. You see, it is our attention span as a society, as a culture, and the attention span of a policy maker, meaning politician. इसमें बहुत लंबा gestation period है. कुछ instantly हम दिखा नहीं सकते. हम ठीक है, हम bridge बना के हम 3 साल में दिखा देंगे. But I can't get 100 vessels on rivers in a matter of 2 or 3 years. So long gestation period. That is why the way forward, and this I've spoken this ad infinitum, ad nauseum. The government will have to stay invested because worldwide, even in a country like US where all your logistics is driven by private sector, the waterways is maintained by the government. And so guess, this is my very good quiz question because I do a lot of quizzing and I host a lot of quizzes. I just keep asking, guess who maintains the inland waterways on Mississippi? Any guesses? Which entity would be doing it? No guesses? It's the US Army Corps of Engineers. Imagine the 4G establishment which maintains. So जब पहली बार I had a meeting with them ना, तो somebody from Asia Pacific Command in Hawaii will be talking to you. मैंने कहा Hawaii कहाँ और you can, why is this very army command, why would these Johnnies be talking to me? And this guy was dressed up wearing a Hawaiian shirt and all that, एकदम बढ़िया casually, and had a cigar. And turned out that the entire Mississippi thing, and Mississippi is one of the most widely used river for inland navigation, is maintained by the US Army, sir, US Army Corps of Engineers. So your Rhine, Danube, they are all maintained by the state undertakings. So China, to of course, Vietnam, of course. So government will have to stay invested tan, man and dhan तीनों से. Overcome chicken and egg dilemma कि भाई पहले ट्रैफिक आएगा कि फिर आप गाड़ी लाओगे. You have to overcome that. पहले आपको waterways बनाना पड़ेगा, जहाज़ों की फंडिंग करनी पड़ेगी, तभी आएगा. And this signal has to go loud and clear to the market. This triad of fairway, which is the navigable river, floating stock, which is the vessel, HR and regulatory, they all have to go hand in hand and complete the last mile loop. Learn from global best. The Gyan I'm telling you, that experience has come. Actually, I've seen worldwide, studied worldwide. In fact, my first trip to Europe was when I was in Container Corporation of India. We had gone to study multimodality in Antwerp. And the biggest port, Antwerp port, is actually a river port. It's on River Scheldt in Belgium. So global best, so you have these things. It's not something that we are not reinventing the wheel here. Fast track low hanging fruits, which is Indo-Bangladesh protocol route in Odisha. Co-opt waterways in urban transport and planning. Examples are there. Assam is doing it. Guwahati is doing it big time. Kochi is there. Amsterdam, of course, I just mentioned. Start with government bulk. So we were in touch with, say, Steel Authority of India, FCI. And now we are in touch with Amazon, so the cargo has started moving. And one of the biggest learning is that PPP is not a silver bullet. It's not a magic wand. कोई ऐसा कोई वो नहीं महामृत्युंजय मंत्र नहीं है ये. It won't happen like this. I tried PPP projects पे doling out my 3 terminals, Haldia, Sahibganj and Varanasi. Only Haldia has gone on PPP, the other 2 have not. We need a lot of due diligence and flexibility has to come. And most important is, like my presentation here, we have to give presentations all over the country and across so that people know what this sector is all about. I conclude my presentation. I'll be very happy to take questions. Thank you.
So first is, you said about that it will be beneficial but there are multiple challenges. If there's a dam, if there's an irrigation project, then in that case, a river will not be navigable. I mean, though it will be can be navigated across, but along the river it may not be navigable.
So that's one technical challenge, yeah, okay. And what else?
Second thing is the multiple handling of cargo. Okay, if you have a road or if you have a rail, it can directly go to the say a factory or near a warehouse. But establishing a warehouse or a factory along a river may not be feasible.
Yeah, transshipment costs, yes.
Okay.
Having multiple handling, yes.
Third is reliability issue. Okay. I mean, if you have a rail, if you have a road, you have a control over that. But if it is a river, you do not have control over that. I mean, I'm talking about the depth of the water or the width of the river. It might change according to season. Fourth is you talked about there are many waterways that you talked about. They are not very long. Okay. So the real beauty or real advantage of the waterways, or for that matter, any means of transport, cheaper transport would come if it is very long. Okay. But so for those regions where the length is not, I mean, length is less than 50 meters,
the lead is not very long, it may not be viable.
The advantage may not be.
Good, all four very good points. And see, let's see the axiom. The thing about transportation and logistics is this, that unfortunately we always present things from the supply side. जैसे मैं रेलवे में हूँ, मैं रेलवे के हिसाब से बोलूँगा, या वाटर्स में हूँ, वाटरवेज के हिसाब से बोलूँगा. You can actually take a neutral view because you are agnostic as far as the mode is concerned. So obviously, if it is not viable, it is not feasible, it will not be there. Okay. So whatever I've talked about is place where it is feasible. Now I'll just give you a small example. I'll
Just come back to one of my favorite examples, the movement of fly ash on bulkers. And I talked about gas holes in this context. You see, a trailer typically is carrying about 10 to 15 tons of cargo. Right? Now, and even the most primitive inland water transport vessel carries about 45 tons, sorry, 450 tons.
So 30, if I'm able to keep 30 bulkers off the road, off-road, I save congestion, I save time, and I save cost. See, if it is not feasible, लोग आएंगे ही नहीं करने. यहाँ पे तो established market है आपका. That is one as far as the short leads and this kind of traffic is concerned, right? Second thing you talked about was reliability. You see, if you see from, has anyone been to Germany, Middle Rhine Valley or Rhine? No. So if you go, it's a great holiday spot, by the way. I mean, best place, very beautiful places in Europe. But you see the density of traffic is so high that on either side of Rhine you have dedicated rail lines where only goods trains are moving. But at the same time, you have these barge trains, you have the iron ore and steel movement and coal movement happening. And it is just, so 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 tons की जब barge train जाती है, you save a lot in terms of track capacity, you save a lot in terms of emission, right? And you are saving a lot in terms of cost, because this is not a very time sensitive. See, what the customer needs, unless it is some real GIT kind of thing, is not short lead or short time. The customer wants reliability. कि अगर हम बोलें जी 7वें दिन अगर माल पहुंचना है तो 7वें दिन पहुंच जाए, that reliability. So once this mode develops, so if you're transiting from say Triveni or Farakka to Haldia, that reliability is there today. If you are transiting from say Jogi Ghopa to Dhubri and Dhubri to Dhaka and all that, Niche in Bangladesh, from India to Bangladesh, that reliability is there. It cannot compete with road, it cannot compete with rail in terms of speed, but it is able to compete in terms of cost and reliability.
But what about multiple handling?
Multiple handling, then again it depends on the kind of cargo that is going. So when I had when I designed this project in Odisha, what was the handling that was coming from the pit head of the coal through conveyor? It was being loaded directly onto the barge, and that barge was going downstream to Paradeep or to Dhamra, and not going, there's no need for it to even touch the port. It was going directly to that vessel where it had to be loaded on the anchorage. So it was saving that handling. So you have to have that kind of cargo. So
Sorry, sir, the loading might be, I mean, you could do loading easily with a conveyor belt, but unloading might be a challenge, sir.
it was being done. It was being done very effective. The ship's cranes were doing it very beautifully. Actually, यार थोड़ा जल्दी में बनाया. Actually, I wanted to load those the light rate movement जो मैंने describe किया ना. I could have inserted a film, but that is how it is happening. Only problem is अभी हम जिस speed पे कर रहे हैं वो speed अच्छी नहीं है. But as we gain expertise, it becomes fast. यार industry catches on to these things. Only problem is who will do the initial investment. पहले मुझे लगता था यार हम क्यों कर रहे हैं 4,000. फिर जब मैंने देखा कि दिल्ली स्टेशन के रीडेवलपमेंट में अगर हम 20,000 करोड़ का एस्टिमेट बना सकते हैं तो few hundred crores here. This is a strategic investment. And you have to do it for the simple reason because your emission, see, you are transiting to net zero by 2070. You have to have that modal shift. So for bulk movement, we have to move.
Sir, it's not very
हाँ.
Sir, whether inland waterway is operationally profitable?
See, it is an authority. It is not a corporation. It is not profit. It is actually profitable. है खर्चा है कुछ नहीं है हमारा. It's a very small body. See, inland waterway, I didn't have much time. There was something called inland, it was IWTC करके, there was a corporation earlier. So this was merged and then it became an authority. It was not running profitably. But लेकिन हमारे क्या खर्चा और overheads बहुत कम है, इसीलिए. But it is not. If I suppose it, I were to turn it into a corporation, it will not be, and it should not be, because it is not doing it for a balance sheet. It is doing something very, very strategic for long term. And it should not be. Nowhere it is actually, except of course all the countries that I mentioned. There it is. Russia, in fact, Volga, I mean historically it has been a river for inland navigation. Even today it is being used. So there are examples, whole lot of them. And just imagine before railway came in, what was the mode of transport? You know, to Bengal was the richest province. The Gangetic plains were actually the reason why everybody was really conquering, everybody invaded from northwest and subsequently by the sea, because these were the the real prosperous areas. So inland navigation was very, very well developed. We have unfortunately ignored our maritime tradition, and that is why we are paying the price for it. अभी बहुत टाइम लगेगा हमको कल्चर डेवलप करने में. एंड द वे द काइंड ऑफ इंसेंटिव वी आर गिविंग इज नॉट करेक्ट. आप शिप बिल्डिंग इंडस्ट्री को इंसेंटिव दे रहे हो, नहीं, गिव इंसेंटिव टू द यूजर्स. In fact, I have a wet lease model is what the model will work, but that's for another day.
We are giving access to cross-country trade and movement of goods. How do we address the security concerns through this model? Like,
What are the security concerns?
like you can transport with fly ash if somebody brings in some.
So it does not go seamlessly completely. There is a custom examination. It is as safe, or I've worked in Concor also. So it is as safe or as unsafe as any other mode of transit. In fact, much easier to scan because with all your technology and all your handheld whatever detectors, you could do that. Yeah. They are fully equipped. All the internal trade they are. उसी में time लगता है ना. उसी में हम लोग actually are. I didn't want to say it. I mean, lot of challenges happen because of the delays in custom notification. Notification नहीं हो पाता, staff नहीं आ पाता, बहुत दिक्कत होती है. In fact, our trade can actually increase by a factor of 2 or 3 in no time if we are able to do this. I didn't dwell upon it because this was just an introductory lecture.
Thank you, sir, for the enlightening session. You rightly said that inland waterways is an essential part for the multimodal transport that is going to happen if we want to boost the trade and the connectivity. It was echoed, your sentiment was echoed by our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, and I state from what he says. Inland waterways in particular offers a sustainable and cost-effective solution to enhance our logistic network. So you very rightly say that inland waterways is very important for multimodal transport, and we thank you, sir, for this session. To conclude, I invite our chairman, LPI, to offer the vote of thanks and present the LPI memento to sir. Sir, your vote of thanks, sir, first.
So, thank you very much with all your experience in this logistics, all your experience. I'm sure inland waterways must have taken off. There are a lot of complementarities with our land board authority also. So number of course already there. And Karimganj or Sudargandi, we have acquired land next to the river to build a jetty so that we are in direct roads.
Barak River.
So, March can start from Calcutta and then all the way in Karimganj without any hindrance. Then in Dhubri also we have plans of setting up a land port there also. So I think at least in this region we hopefully work very closely with the inland waterways and provide multimodal connectivities. So very, very interesting illustration, especially some aspects which many of us are not aware of, and I'm sure this is one sector where government is strategically investing, so has a lot of potential in future. And also on the tourism side, so that is another area which, along with inland waterways, we also need to explore. So thank you very much for sparing your time and coming. Thank you.
I will now request Chairman to please present the moment to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.